Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speaking on Anime. So, we've got a great anime this week, just like I always have a great anime because I don't talk about crappy anime. Because why would you? Why would you want to? There's very few animes that I don't like, but they are out there. There was one about a witch that I caught my daughter watching, which was just terrible. It was awful. But we only talk about good animes here so that you guys know what we think is good, and you can hopefully go watch it for yourself and then let us know what you think. So, but this is what we do here on Sunday afternoons. So, real quick here, let's just say hello to everybody who's in the chat. We got Lady Mist, Brandon the anime guy, Chris Persia. See, Martin Orlando. Oh man, hey Martin, how's it going? What is it like? 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning where you you are a trooper, man. Thank you for being here. I think Brandon or Martin's in Scotland, I believe. So without any further ado, we are talking Tokyo Ghoul this week. It is a fantastic anime. And to help me talk about this, I am going to bring in my guest this week. This is his second favorite anime. So here he is, Mr. Adega Outlaw. Everybody clap, cheer.
Took you a while to get you to finish that. Aren't you glad you did?
I did. Yes. I mean, you kept telling me. So what we're talking about here is in Tokyo Ghoul. There's 3 seasons, and the first 2 seasons are pretty. They streamline pretty well. In the beginning of the third season, there is a dramatic shift. There's a slight change in the art style, and the story arc changes quite a bit. It throws you. And so I mean, I get about 3 episodes in, then I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. I can't. And I kept telling Adega that, and he's just like, dude, you just gotta just go, just push through. So a week or so ago, I finally went through, and oh my gosh, it is absolutely worth it. Everybody, I can't stress. If you're lost those first couple episodes of the third season, just power through. You'll be glad you did.
That's a general rule. If you like the beginning of an anime, just push through because usually it'll come right back around to something you'll like.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, sometimes once they go off the rails, they're gone. But I mean, with anime, I think that's pretty rare. Like I said, there's that one anime that I caught my daughter watching. It's called like Elena the Wandering Witch or something like that. The morals in that anime are some of the worst. I'm like, I'm not sure this is anime. This somebody from the West must have done this because like like the heroine just leaves people to die, and I'm just like, no. So I wouldn't let her watch it anymore. She was mad at me, but because my kids all love anime as much as I do. But I'm like, yeah, but I still kind of want to have my say on whether something teaches you bad things or not. So, but anyway, so let's get into this. So it does have 3 seasons. Now, how did this get to be your number two on your list? What
Well, it was
kind of
number one.
oh
And then I saw Attack on Titan, and I'm going, I'm going to have to reevaluate. It, but Attack on Titan, I had to put that on three. I love the story. I love it. Don't get me wrong. The only reason why I would say it's number two is because of, I can't say mysticism, but the depth, the music, the definitely the artistic flair. Because sometimes I get into the goth type or the
hmm,
darker. And when I saw Ergo Proxy, I haven't found anything else that seems to match that. But with Tokyo Ghoul, it has, and you mentioned it just before we went on, there are a ton of characters. I have a hard time with names. So when we go
hmm.
through this, I'm going to say, well, you remember that guy that did this and this? Because I can't remember the names.
Great, we
I just
both
have a
do
hard
that,
time
so
with
we're
it.
both gonna be like,
Yep,
well, he
yep, yep,
looks
yep, yep,
like this.
yep. Um, but it's just an incredible story. And
Yes.
that above and beyond anything, besides all the action, the blood and the gore and everything, it's just there is a dedication to friendship. You have the main hero who gets put through the ringer over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
The end of season 1, where he spent days having his fingers and toes removed over and over and
Yes.
over again. Um,
And
it
they're not
just
shy about letting you know what's happening either. It is
right,
quite
blood
graphic.
going everywhere.
You're just like, this is really bad.
Yep, yep. But the thing is, and when you get him to where he almost cracks, and then Risa shows up and starts monkeying with his head even more. But instead of taking him the wrong way, he figures out what he needs to do,
Yeah.
and it just each time he becomes stronger. But it isn't. There's no. He becomes stronger just because it's time to become stronger. He gains his strength through perseverance and extreme hardship that he plows through. And
Yes.
it and there's lots of characters in this story that's like that, both humans and ghouls, that have similar type arcs where they have to face their demons. So it's um, yeah, there's a lot of depth to it, which I love, absolutely love.
Yeah. That layered storytelling where when you think it can't get any more complex, but it's not like overly complex or complex for the sake of being complicated. It's like it's just a depth of storytelling that you quite often you just don't get. Everything's on the surface and easy to grab, and this makes you work for it a little bit. You can't just sit there and watch this idly and be like, because you'll miss really important stuff. The thing I thought was interesting is like the ghoul aspect of this, because out of all the myriad monsters like vampires and werewolves and all the different types of monsters there really isn't much attention paid to ghouls. Like I before I watched this, I was like, I mean, I kind of had a general idea, but nobody'd ever really done a series focusing on what ghouls were and how they were. And I think they added, things like the Kagane. I don't think that's a typical ghoul thing, but that was
No,
something that they added to give flair and stuff, which it makes it just that much better. And we'll kind of get into what that is later, but I mean, I like that aspect of it. That like, I mean, I mean, when you think of ghoulish, I mean, if somebody was to call you ghoulish, you'd be like, well, that's really bad. and so
right, right.
with this, like you get a feel for just exactly why they have. I mean, it's a very dark monster to be. Out of all of them, it's kind of one of the worst for
Right.
what you have to do to survive. So, for those of you who don't know or haven't seen this, like ghouls can only eat human beings. Like that's the only way they can survive. They cannot eat other foods and stuff like that and survive on that. You have to eat human being. Their bodies, that's the only thing their bodies will take for nourishment and stuff like that. So they're kind of limited. They're stuck between, well, we either all die off or we have to do these terrible things to survive. And there's
They
kind of
can
a
eat regular food, but it doesn't do them any good, and it makes
yeah,
them very, very sick.
makes them very sick. Which one of the characters, um, oh, I just lost her name. She's one of the main characters. Let me see if I can. Um,
Toka?
Toka, yeah, she actually like eats human food because she's got a human friend, and that's how like she kind of proves her friendship with this human. She'll like force the food down and keep it down, to because she wants to show like this girl doesn't even know that Toka's doing this stuff for her, and but like Adega said, the way friendship is portrayed, and like that it's not something you just idly get or throw away or whatever. It's something special, and when you get a hold of that, you don't just let it go. And you fight for it. And I mean, because these two, like the two main characters, they're not really friends in the beginning. They kind of have a rough introduction to each other and stuff. So Ken Kaneki, which is the main character that you're going to follow through this series, is human at the beginning, and then he has a run-in with a ghoul named Reese, and she's trying to kill him, like he's dating her, doesn't know she's a ghoul. He walks her home. She tries to kill him, and like a bunch of beams and stuff fall and crush her and kind of him, and they end up putting her organs in Ken's body to save his life, which basically turns him into a half ghoul, half human. But it kind of makes him more ghoul than like he is more similar to the ghouls now than human beings. So he's got to struggle with going from being a human being to having to eat human flesh, which, is just that's not something we really typically think of doing as a good idea. So
Right.
So what did you think about because like I love the fact how complex Ken is. He goes from this simple kid just kind of minding his own business, and he's thrust into this just chaotic life that he has to
Right.
deal with.
I think, and again, that's one of my favorite parts about it, is to see the character growth. He maintains just a little bit of that throughout the whole time. He tends to be the quiet one, the hesitant, reserved, even though he becomes unbelievably skilled.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. There are certain types of ghouls. You got your regular ghouls, and they have varying different, what he says, cognitate. They're different abilities that they have, the growths that come out of their body. They can use them for various different things. Think of them as body weapons. But there is a type of ghoul that if it doesn't eat just humans, if it eats other ghouls, it starts becoming more monstrous, gaining more intense strength and skills. And he kind of hangs on the balance between that, especially at the end of season 1. You could see, well, this is his first step onto not only gaining a tremendous amount of strength because of the ordeals he's gone through. We were talking about it beforehand too, that he basically gets tortured for weeks on end. Just unbelievable. But then at the end of that, he is forced to make a decision. Is he going to live or die? And part of living, in his instance, he needed to eat another ghoul. And so he does.
And he's coming to terms with Reese, who is still kind of alive in him.
Right.
Like he'll see her periodically, and he has interactions with her and stuff. So I mean, it's kind of like eating other ghouls isn't just like, oh, I ate a sandwich and now it's part. It's like, no, they actually kind of become part of you, and you have to deal with their personalities.
And usually it's to at least for the mental aspect, it's to a detriment. With physical, it's a big bonus.
Yeah. Mentally, they're trying to overwrite your personality with their personalities, and it's just so it gets really confused. But it's kind of that cool. There's a mental aspect to this that's all going on behind the scenes, and he's having to fight battles internally and externally, and it makes his character just that much more complex. And by the way, Salty Texas C, thanks for popping in here. There's been a couple people jump in. I always say pop in here. I don't know why I do. For coming to the show. Let me put it like that. And Xenocide, thanks for coming. But yeah, it's so if you struggle with like bloody gore kind of stuff at all, this is not the anime for you. This is going to deal with some really dark places in the human psyche. But it's not like, but it kind of does it in a positive way. Like sometimes you have to walk through the darkness to get to the light. I mean, we all do that. We all have parts of ourselves that we're struggling with, and we're trying to overcome things. And it's in his case, it's a lot more external and a lot more severe. But I mean, it explores that part of dealing with the darker sides of yourself.
Because you got Amman, who is part of the CCG, and his battles he has to go through. You have the Owl, and his plus his kid, who's also plus his kid, who's also an owl. But his story is just intense, and you get most of the story in one episode, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got a lot of depth all over the place, and not just with the main two characters or three characters.
No,
Because
no,
you have the
it's
one kid that comes in season two who becomes part of the CCG, the white haired kid who keeps stapling himself and stitching himself up. Um, he's a
yeah,
little nuts, but he's a wiry little killing machine,
yeah.
and he
And
has a
his backstory is just tragic. It's like,
yep,
wow, I'm amazed he's doing as well as he is. I mean,
yep,
for what he went through,
yep. He basically
trying to,
becomes their pit bull. Hang on to him, stick him.
yeah, yeah. And the voice actor, the English voice actor that they got to do him, also does some voice work in one of my other favorite animes called Soul Eater. Um, and it's just it's kind of he's kind of an effeminate voice, which is funny for the character, this vicious little character he's playing. I mean, it is just I don't know, it's crazy, but he's a like they're all amazing characters. Even the secondary and kind of the bit characters like are all driving this story. Like
Yep,
it is a huge ensemble
yep.
cast for this. It just goes on and on and on.
And I
But
hate to
yeah,
say this, one of the weirdest, most disgusting characters in the whole show. That guy that you have an image of down there covering his eye.
yes.
He's weird.
Oh yeah, he
He's
is beyond
perverted,
creepy.
and he's cool.
Yeah, and he's another one of them guys. The voice actor is somebody I love whenever he's doing it because he's just so good at putting that emphasis into his voice that just
Yep.
like it'll send chills up your back or it'll make you smile or you're just
The
creeped out now.
gourmet.
Yeah, and they called him the gourmet
I want
because
to
he'll
eat
eat.
you while you're eating them.
Oh, that is one of the that is a rough scene to watch. But because he's got them just for you guys who may have not seen this, he's got Kaneki trapped in this old church, and he's kidnapped a girl that Kaneki's kind of friends with a guy. He's kidnapped her girlfriend and wants Kaneki to eat her while he eats him because he gets off on like weird fetish eating habits. I mean, that's his whole shtick throughout the entire show. Is he's always trying to find some weird new way of eating people or eating ghouls, or it's just and like I said, the creep factor is just
Yep.
off the charts.
Yep.
But I mean, it really it adds. I mean, it just adds something because in the end, he he's kind of redeemed in the end. And so he's still a weirdo, but I mean, I think he finally realizes that maybe all of that stuff he was doing was kind of sad and pathetic. Um,
Right.
but yeah, his motivations are just dubious throughout this whole thing. But yeah, he is an awesome character. Oh, and thanks Peter Venkman fan site for jumping. I almost said Poppany for jumping in here. So let's see. So
Little
the
people.
yeah. Oh, hello. You're not supposed to be in here. Okay. But there's. I'm trying to think of there's so much to this. You almost need to do this by season. Um,
And the one thing that both ghouls and humans enjoy is coffee,
yeah.
which is weird.
Mm-hmm. But that's kind of so this kind of the main group of the good guys all kind of center around this cafe called Antegu, and there's this guy, and it's basically a group of ghouls that are trying to live less violently than all the other ghouls out there. Basically, they like they go out and find spots where people commit suicide and then take their bodies and then eat them instead of like actually killing a human being to and then eating them like most ghouls do. Because Reese, where we mentioned her before, she is what they call a binge eater, and you get introduced to her and Jason, which is just a wow, just dark character in this anime. I mean, a lot of them
That's
are,
the
but
very beginning, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So I
right.
mean, at the very beginning, you get introduced to them. They end up in a fight, but Reese, where she's a binge eater, will eats, like most ghouls can eat one human being and it'll last them for a month. Reese is eating multiple humans per day and stuff, and not even finishing them. She just kills them, kind of eats what she wants, and then moves on and kills the next one. And she's the one that gets killed, and but it's psychotic. So he's got this crazy psychotic chick that gets stuck in his head and his body from the very beginning of this. And so that's what that's why we say he is dealing with a lot once he goes through this change. But from there, he gets introduced to these ghouls at Ontego through I keep losing her name, Toku. So and she doesn't really like him at the beginning, but she takes him to meet the proprietor of Ontego, and then they go through and they get to know each other, and he starts working at the coffee shop. Hail, Kamikaze D, thanks for coming. But it just kind of, and from there things just spiral. This is happening all inside Tokyo, really, and they have it split up into districts. So they are wards, sorry, is what they actually called it. They live in the 20th ward. I'm trying to think. There's different wards, and some of them are better than others, and some of them are more active with ghouls, and some of them are less active with ghouls and stuff. But there's a group called the CCG, which is a government agency that its main thing is to rid Tokyo of the ghouls, to wipe them out, kill them. And how they do this is because a ghoul, you cannot pierce their skin with regular knives and stuff. It just glances off, it does nothing. So they have to come up with creative ways of trying to kill these ghouls off. And where the ghouls are strong, they're fast, their skin is nearly indestructible, and they've got what they call the kaganes, which is what we were talking about before. And I need to probably find some pictures of that, but they're almost
really quickly too.
Okay,
some faster than others, but they can take mortal blows and still survive.
Yeah, and they're like growths that come out of them, but they're multicolored, and they can shoot them out at other things, and every one of them's different. Each one of them has a slightly different power to their kagane. Some of them can shoot projectiles. Some of them, stay attached, but they can stab with them. I mean, it's really cool the different ways they come up with for variations of the kaganes. And how the CCG tries to end up hunting the ghouls is they kill the ghouls and then take their kaganes, and basically through artificial means they manipulate the kaganes to try and fight back against the ghouls. And they have agents and stuff, and this whole story is basically a kind of almost a battle or a war that's going on between three factions. You've got the CCG, you've got the ghouls that are kind of trying to live peaceably, and then you've got another group of ghouls called Algidi Tree, and they are militant. They are tired of being hunted. They just they're trying to wipe out the CCG and anyone who gets in their way. So I mean, that's the basic backstory of what you've got going on, and then it's that fight between these groups, and it just gets crazy. And like I said, and there's constantly new people coming into the cast, and just when you think I can't take it, you're just no, he's awesome. I'm glad he's here. There's a kid that comes in, and he's kind of, at first he's playing a bit character towards, I think he's in the second season. He's got red hair, and he's kind of he wants to be the best at everything, and he's not. There's another girl that's better than him. She outdid him in school, and he's always kind of playing second fiddle to her, and he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder about it. And what ends up happening with his character is just you end up really liking him and stuff. And then by the third season, it's like I said, with that third season, so much gets flipped on its head that, I mean, if you wanted to teach a class to Hollywood for how you subvert expectations and do it right, watch this anime. Because this is how you do that. And unfortunately for me, it was almost too much to where I didn't make it through the third season. But I mean, once you push through that, but I mean, seriously, it kind of undermines everything that you've been set up through the first two seasons, and it's just it really is awesome. And so, like I said, then that character he completely changes, becomes completely different, and yet stays kind of the same. It's really hard to describe. All I can tell you is this anime is absolutely worth checking out. If you can get past the blood and the gore and the that kind of stuff, like because there's kind of an underlying romance that's happening at the same time, but it doesn't. It's not going to strike like for guys. It's not going to strike you as some chicky flick kind of you
No,
know.
they do it pretty mellow.
Yeah, it takes. I mean, it's a romance that seems real. Like far too often when I see like um when I see love stories done on in television or stuff, it never feels real. Like it feels like they just forced it and threw them together, and oh, everything just worked out. And it's like that is not how this it plays out very differently through this.
Okay,
Um,
pronouncing it with the mix between Japanese and English, because Salty wanted to know the name of Tokyo Ghoul.
yeah, Tokyo Ghoul.
Or
Hmm.
most Americans would say Tokyo, but Tokyo's Japanese way. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. It's no, I saw you ask that, but sounds like Mike. Yeah, yes, Peter. It is like if you like blood and gore, it is great. It is fantastic. Like almost to the point where you're like, that's a lot of blood.
Right.
There's like this never-ending flow of blood. I mean,
Right.
Attack on Titan and this one could go neck and neck for how much violence and stuff is going on.
To give you an idea, the CCG is making an attack at the end of season 2
Mm.
against the ghouls, and they have a huge amount of people that are going to do this, and they spend an entire episode of them writing their epitaphs to their families because they're expecting a lot of people to die, and at the end there's a lot of people dead.
In fact, so much that the guys that's in charge of the operation basically gets blamed and almost demoted for it and stuff. And he's like one of the super high ups in the. But I mean, through the course of this anime, and by the end, you find out that the CCG is not.
Oh, you want to give any? There's people here that haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'll just tell you that like yeah, there's a lot of things that like appear to be
Twists and
something.
turns.
Yeah, I mean, you'll just think what. And it really is fantastic. Okay, so I apologize for anybody who's see the show. I'm not trying to spoil anything. Trust me, seeing it in real life, I could tell you word for word what this is, and you'd be like, "No, he didn't do it justice. He didn't. Is way better than anything he could have described." So, don't let that put you off. You will like this anime if you like anime at all.
All right, where's your favorite battle scenes?
You know, some of my favorite battle scenes are the one-on-ones. The fight between Ken and Jason, um, after he breaks that is just because I love the guy that plays the voice of Jason, Christopher, or I just lost his name. He plays the voice of All Might in My Hero Academia. He is like all over anime, but this is the first time I've seen him play a bad guy. He is so good as the bad guy. But like that fight between those two, um, I really liked. I really liked that particular one. I'm trying to think if there's another one that.
I liked when they made that raid on Cochlea.
Oh yeah, when the owl ends up coming in at the end, and
Yep.
yeah, there's.
I mean, they're all pretty cool, but some of them are just pretty quick. Some of them are way too bloody, and then but you could see the artistry. The people really cared about what they did because some of
Yes.
these cognite um, are almost beautiful. You
Yeah.
know, they're tools of ghouls that are meant to tear and rip and kill. But I remember the first time I saw reese's with it was like a red rose flower coming out.
Hmm.
I just, when I first saw that, I go, okay, I got to watch this.
And it shifts from like
Yep.
almost flame to like crystal formations, and I mean, it just, yeah, it, like I said, the variety of what they do with the kaganes, for like some of them are similar, but they're all just slightly different. Like none of them have the exact same type of thing, and yeah, it's the one of the creepy guy we were talking about down here. He's got one that comes out of his back and wraps around his arm and
That's
basically
purple, of
becomes
course.
a blade,
Yep.
the gourmet, and it's just so awesome. Hey, thanks for jumping in here, Purple Valkyrie, welcome.
Hello,
um
bud.
but but yeah, it's, oh my
The
gosh,
two that
the
touched me the most, just a heads up, would be Hiname, because she has both her dad and her mom's. And when you learn the story, that means a lot. It's when you see it for the first time, you're going, oh, crud.
yeah.
That is awesome. And then, oh, I had it. Um, Kanekis at the end. It's just
Oh.
nuts with the shield crosses.
Hmm.
But
Yes.
those are the two that impressed me the most.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're well, and that's the thing, like, I mean, there's a lot of blood and gore and everything, but there's also a lot of like kind of dramatic, emotional, kind of gut-wrenching stuff that you'll go through, because like, I mean, you it's kind of like going inside of a war zone and having to look at both sides, and you have to see it from both sides. I mean, so you're
Yep.
like, okay, I get why they're doing this, but then you
Yep.
go to the other side and you're like, okay, now I can get why they're doing, and it's, so I mean, you definitely get a feel for all the tragedy, and it's just like, and from an outsider's perspective, you're just like, if you guys had just kind of stop and see, that's what kind of Ken is trying to get everybody to recognize, where he's half human and half ghoul. He's like, maybe I'm the only one that can see, um both sides, and maybe I can kind of help be a bridge and stuff. But I mean, he says that in the beginning, and then they just totally, guys, kind of goes out of control, but in the end, that's what his whole mission kind of ends up being through this anime. um
Right.
but
And
yeah.
it's like you said, though, too, you see both sides, and even the people that you think you're going to hate, like Amon was set up
Yeah.
as a subordinate to the white haired dude.
Hmm.
He's real skinny, older, and just nasty. But then you see his backstory and going, oh, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't feel as
Oh,
sick on him as I was before.
I can't remember his name. It's like Monroe or something like that.
I don't know, but he's like an old version of the psycho kid with the white
Yeah.
hair that still kills himself.
Yeah.
Why are you
Yeah.
putting stitches on yourself?
I mean, he has got a serious grudge. The only thing he lives for is work and killing ghouls.
Yep.
And you kind of find out why that. I mean, and some of the stuff he says and does to the ghouls is just like, okay, dude, you're like, you are over the top. You have lost your mind. I mean, it's just like, it is like, okay, I understand you have a grudge and things are bad, but like, he is just cruel and vicious.
Yep.
And like I said, but at the end, you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get why, you know. So I mean, it really does make you look at everything, because that's the thing that most people forget. We all tend to look at everything from our own perspective, and we very rarely ever step outside those lines to go, oh, I guess I can see why, they might feel this way. I don't agree, but I think the world would be a lot better off if we actually could step back and look outside a little bit more.
Just a heads up, you can see my mic shaking.
Uh-huh.
We live about a half a mile away from a train that goes by and picks up milk from the cheese factory and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And my house is old, very sturdy, but shit, I'm on the second story, so it gets a little exaggerated. So you see this thing when a train goes by. You can't hear it, but you can definitely see it.
Your house isn't going to fall in or anything, though, in the next few
No, it's been around for a long time.
just starting to see timbers falling over on top of it. Hey, run. Uh-uh.
Project
Oh,
Storytime.
it's Ma-
Hello,
it's Mado. Mado is that guy's name, or Makido. I
Makido.
am I am terrible at the Japanese pronunciations, and I'm like you. Like I said, there's actually so many characters in this anime. It is hard to keep up with all the names, but like you'll love them all. Like you'll end up just even the ones that you hate, you're gonna love to hate them. I mean, it's just it real and I like the fact that this story has a conclusion. Like, a lot of animes, it's just like, I don't think this ever ends, and stuff like I love
Right.
to hear My Hero Academia, but I'm like, at the current rate that they're progressing, uh, it's going to be 60 years and he's still going to be in high school. I'm like, you get like every season is like a week and a half in real time. I'm just like, okay, guys, you gotta speed this up just a little bit, or we're never gonna. I won't live to see the end of this story. So, hell, Project Story Time. Thanks for jumping in here today. But yeah, so this is just you kind of this is an all around anime. You're gonna get supreme graphic violence. You're gonna get love stories. You're gonna get comedy. You're gonna get. I mean, there's just it will run the gambit. Um, and like I said, you're constantly having new characters come in and kind of either fade out or get killed, or I mean, but it works. Like you're here, like some shows, like I don't know, I think Game of Thrones was famous for this, where like no nobody was safe. Like they'd kill off like the main character just for fun and stuff. I never really got into Game of Thrones, thank goodness, because I heard it ended badly. But
Yeah, you said that about the Blood Witch too, but
yeah, I did not. Did I?
I was like,
What? I
you just
love the
said it was,
Blood Witch.
you just said it was too abrupt.
Oh yeah, I was like, wait, more. There needs to be more. But I mean, hey, that's the first rule of entertainment. Always leave them wanting more. So I mean, well done, you. um, but but no, I don't know if there's any questions that the chat has about, like, seriously, like to try and go through all of this. I just basically on here, I don't do breakdowns of each season and stuff like that, because I just want to give you a general introduction to a great anime, because I want you to go and discover it and find these things for yourself if you haven't seen it, or just get to talk with us about what you love about what you know about the anime. So this is I very much want this to be interactive for you guys as well, because we love seeing your comments and responding to the things that you're interested in, about the different subjects we're talking about. So, but I without going into great details, I'm not sure um, what else I can really talk about. I mean, other than kind of talk about some more of the battle. I was trying to think while you were talking before, and I was thinking about one of the battles, and then I started talking about something else, and it went right out of my head. But there's oh,
Hamon and
there,
Kaneki finally meet too.
sorry,
That,
say that
that
again.
it's towards the end of season one. Amon and Kaneki have to face off, or maybe that's the end of season two. They kind of blur together.
Yeah, season 2, where they
Um,
where they
they're
fight
in the,
several times, but like
yeah,
that's the big one between them, is right there.
they see each other in their own eyes. They
Yeah,
actually can sympathize with each other, and that bridges a huge gap for both worlds, the humans and the ghouls between the
yeah,
two. That was pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. That was. I think probably one of my favorite ones too is when you first get to see the owl ghoul,
Hmm.
and there's the two guys that have the full body Kagunes that
Yes.
are fighting with that one. Like every time you get to see the owl, seriously, you will get tingles and be like, "Oh, this is gonna be good."
Right.
Because he is like the ghoul of ghouls. I mean, he is just it is really cool. And there's actually two of them. And why they call him the owl is because when a ghoul is
Fly.
born half and half, like only one of their eyes will be red and one of their eyes will be human. Um, except for the original owl. I think he gets named that for a completely different
They
reason.
fly.
What's that?
They fly.
Oh yeah, yeah, because that's right. He can fly. So I mean, um, and then there's Kaneki, which he gets made, so he's not actually an owl, but he's kind of an artificial version of the owl, and those ghouls that are born that way or that have that ability, like, are the most powerful ghouls. There's something between the human and the ghoul that it makes them stronger than just a ghoul, all on its own. So it's I don't know, it's really cool. And when you find out later on, and I don't know how to say this without giving stuff away. So there's two owls. One of the owls is the child of the first owl, and
Mhm.
they are not what you expect. Like, as I was going through this, when I finally realized who the second owl was, I'm like, no freaking way. I was just like, that is awesome. But I mean, it's not what you expect, and it really does catch you off guard, and especially because of how she looks when they're in their ghoul form. Um, Very different than when they're just normal.
Something
Um,
too, and I don't know if this is an homage to cosplay or the other way. I know it's always the other way around, but in the maybe it's the third episode, uh, he's taken to a bar, and the bartender is actually the mask maker. And for the ghouls to be able to do what they do at night, but be able to blend in with the humans during the day, when they're out at night, they usually have a mask. And I think one
yes,
of the coolest things I saw was that first mask when they called him the one-eyed ghoul, where it had the zipper mouth. Um, that
yeah,
was a very cool mask. But he did a lot of cool stuff. The mask man, I can't remember his name, but he comes back in the third season. Um, so either way,
yeah,
the idea of the
and
masks and then actually see people do those in cosplay, that's pretty cool.
yeah. You know what I thought because when they bring him in, they talk about, they kind of do a brief thing where it's like, we all wear masks, and in my head, I'm hearing the mask with Jim Carrey, the the
Right,
the guy that does the Bueller. He's the guy
right.
that they get to be the doctor, and I heard that guy in my head,
Yeah,
like
but it
talking.
also has a
We
double
all
meaning.
wear masks.
Right.
It's like, because that's the way my brain works. It works in film clips, really. I mean, at this point, but yeah, it's
But the
uh,
masks also have a double meaning because there's the ones that they wear, and then there's the facade that they put on their personalities that you
yeah,
see change over time, which or be revealed over time, which I thought was. It's just there's so much to it. It's like I said, it's why it's number two for me.
yeah. And I really like and I can't think of his name, but he's the owner of Ontegu, this cafe that
Yeah,
the
yeah,
good people like. His philosophy and the way he comes across, and his stuff, he is just especially when you find out like his backstory and stuff, you're just like, for him to have overcome and got to where he is just, I don't know. It's an amazing thing that he's able to do what he does, and um,
very accepting of everybody.
yeah, and he's trying to make the best out of everything, and trying to. At one point, he's like I think him and Ken are talking, and he's like, so, like, why do you do this coffee shop thing? And, like, I mean, isn't it hard to be around humans? And he's like, well, I like them.
Right.
And I mean, it's kind of a simple statement, but I'm like, oh, he's
And
like,
there's
they're living textbooks to us. They teach us how to blend in with them. And I'm just like, that is a cool way of looking at that.
Yeah, and there's the two coffee scenes with him and see if I get his name right. Shiniboki. He's one of the
Oh,
CCG.
yeah, the senior agent guys.
Yeah, where they sit down and both of them really understand what they're doing, but they're very cordial and learn from each other. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
those are cool scenes. I really like those.
Yeah, they both know what's about to happen, and that they're on opposite sides of this war, but, like, there's just this bubble for a minute where they're
Yeah,
like, They actually see each other as people.
Yep.
Yeah, it is just it's fantastic. Like I said, there you will you this is one of these animes you will be able to go back and you will pick up things every time. Like every time you watch it, it will feel a little bit new, even though you recognize what's happening and stuff. You'll see something you missed the last time, which is what makes a show really great. Is that rewatchability?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
um, I think that's probably where we're going to leave. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Like I said, we could
No.
literally go on for hours
Right.
about this anime,
Right.
but
If you're giving spoilers, we could do a lot. But I'm really considering my next purchase may actually be the manga for this, just to fill in some of the gaps. You know,
yeah,
because you had such a hard time between season 2 and season 3, and the first episode of season 3, I'm going, they really changed things. But having seen enough anime, it's one of those things you plow through because there's a reason for it. Usually,
yeah,
they don't screw things up just to screw them up, especially when they have such a good formula.
yeah.
Uh, so it'd be interesting to see what was missing from the manga at that point.
Yeah, because there is like you feel like you've missed about 6 months in the middle of
Yeah.
it. You're just like, and that's why, like, I was willing to go with it for a little while, but I'm just like, it was such a jarring thing between those two seasons. I'm like, I've missed, I was like, okay, I'm lost. I don't know what, but like, if you'll hang in there and stick with it, like, it clears up. Like, you figure out what's going on and stuff. But yeah, but you've got to do the work.
Yep. Yep.
Whatever that would work. I mean, enjoyment, but I mean, it is one of those things where I mean, it's like I said, you can't just watch this idly and be like brain dead the whole time because you'll miss out on all the really cool stuff. Um, so we're coming to one of the parts of my show that is the worst because I have so many animes that I like that I have a hard time picking which one I will do next week, and I usually just randomize them in my head and just pick one at random because if I don't do that, I'll drive myself crazy trying to figure out which anime I want to do next. Hey, Black Angus, thanks for jumping in here today. Good to see you. We're just getting done, so sorry. I apologize. Usually I only go about an hour, but this next week I think we're going to go with something a little bit more low
Less-
key. Yeah, less blood, and we're going to do Horimiya, and I think I'm saying that right. Um, but it's basically it's kind of a high schoolish setting and a love story type thing, and but
well, at
it's
least it's not naked farmers.
it's you were never gonna let me live down Food Wars, are you?
Never.
Because of
It
that.
happened.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, go watch Food Wars because it's fantastic. I need to do a review on that one. But it's called Horimiya, I think is how they say it. And it is just let me see if I can pull it up here so that I can put it on the screen in case I'm slaughtering the name, which would not be the first time I did that. Hang on, give me just a second here. But it's a fun romantic high school love story, but it's different. It's not what you expect, and it is riotously funny. I mean, very funny, and not like in a very clever, witty. The dad character in it ends up being absolutely one of my favorite um, characters. He's the ultimate dad that is going to totally like mess things up for you with your boyfriend. He's gonna make the boyfriend feel really awkward and stuff, and but he ends up loving the boyfriend anyway, and he ends up almost liking the boyfriend more than his own daughter. And it is a really fantastic anime. Let me see here. I've got it. I never know if I'm saying it right, so I apologize. I'll try and pull up the picture of what it actually says here. Guess I should have had this done before, huh? But and now my internet's decided to slow way down. Okay, so yeah. share my screen here. I apologize for just hey, this is not professionally done. I am a novice. So I mean, no, I am an expert.
There you go.
So okay. So this is what the cover. You can find this. It's I think it's on Hulu. No, it's on Funimation. It's been on Funimation where I've been watching it. Which as they were talking about in the chat, Funimation was just recently purchased by Crunchyroll, so they are slowly rolling everything into Crunchyroll, but it's still on Funimation. I don't know if it's on any other sites.
HBO probably.
What's that?
Which will probably end up on HBO because they're all being. No, seriously, I think it'll be on HBO Max in 6 months or so, probably.
Oh, well, that'd be all right. I mean, I have HBO Max, so but it's about this group of kids. I don't know if I can blow this up anymore. I doubt it. Nope, it's just making lots of more smaller ones. But it's kind of about a shy kid that it's a love story where you get to see the awkward kid kind of blossom and get the girl that everybody else wants, but for not the reasons why you would expect. So it's just it is kind of a very very it's just a fun lighthearted anime that I enjoy. I've watched this one like over and over again because it is funny, it's sweet, it's I mean it's just, and it can be wildly inappropriate, not in a bad way, but just like it'll catch you off guard.
Like I said, the harems, all of that stuff.
I do. I love it. I'm sorry. They're just, it just, and really what it is it's just the awkward situations. Right. I love that awkward comedy, where some poor guy is trying to get himself out of this weird situation with a girl, and I don't know, it always makes me laugh because I just have that kind of a dark, weird sense of humor, I guess. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. We will be back next Sunday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard or 6 p.m. Central Standard, or just add an hour or subtract an hour, depending on which direction you live from those.
We'll be back.
Yeah, well, we will be here next Sunday, and we will be talking Horimiya, and I hope that I can get one of my daughters to come because they like this one as well. So, you get to have a younger person's perspective on this. But thanks, everybody, and we will talk to you guys all next week.
See ya.